Hello and welcome back to Gary and Weaver vs. of the Devil episode 2. I didn't do an outro at the end of the last one, but hello! The prosecution stands ready. So shall we begin? Your credits always good here. Court is now in session. Interesting. Now let's crack open these opening statements and get this case summarized. Gladly, Your Honor. People of the court, the defendant in this case is a man named Suzuki Akaria. Sasuke. He was found at the scene of the crime where two men were shot to death. One was stabbed in the neck, another had their skull bashed in, and a police officer was impaled through the back with a sword. Oh, cop killing piece of shit. Please pardon any outbursts from the gallery that your mics may inadvertently pick up. Now, I understand that the scale of violence on display here today may intimidate you, but I want to stress to all of you now that your responsibility here today is neither taxing nor complex. You will hear testimony, you will be shown evidence, and all of it will point towards the truth, that the defendant is the only individual who could have possibly committed these crimes. That is a simple fact, and the only one you need concern yourself with. Oh, she's as cold as ice, but every ice age beckons a kindling. For as ashes call to cinders and cinders form champions. Defense is ready, Your Honor. Emma did stick to cold logic, so if I follow that with more of the same, it'll end up falling flat. This gallery will never warm up to us, but that can work to our advantage if the jury comes to see the cops as witch hunters eager to start a fire. Choose the most outlandish words you can. Go for broke. It's not like Masters never taught me anything. I know how to do the razzle-dazzle. My fellow citizens, you were brought here today because of an act of violence that took place that could only be described as wild, bloody, or unspeakable. Outlandish. Wild. I should know. I was there. Oh, she just loves playing with this. Oh my god. I saw the blood on the ground, the bullet holes in the walls, felt the... Ooh. Horror. Felt the horror that radiated in the air. And I also saw where my client was held prisoner. And I know exactly where he must have stood, because his sweat and blood had stained the tile. Objection, testifying. Or is that what opening statements... I thought opening statements are not testifying. They are specifically saying, here is the case I'm going to be outlining. So I suppose that's sort of what Morgan is doing. It's definitely what Emma did. My client, a decorated veteran, the man you see standing next to me here, not even fully healed from his torture. Was taken into police custody with lacerations, bruises, internal bleeding, broken bones. And while he was in police custody, he somehow sustained a black eye, a busted lip, a broken nose, and a boxed ear. A puzzle which I'm sure any one of the officers in the gallery today would be happy to testify about. You're gonna let us say that? You want me to object during an opening statement? Much is resting on the outcome of this trial. 5 men lie dead in the morgue. One of them a police officer, Tarek. Don't speak his name, you mob lawyer bitch. Hang him up. Hang her too. This is... Hey, we like to have fun in this courtroom, put on a good show. But that's because we're on the stage. Any more outbursts from the gallery and I'll clear the entire room. You can all watch the rest on your phones or peeking through a keyhole like a bunch of sweaty looky-loos. Counsellor, let's wrap this up. Yes, Your Honour. The fact of the matter is, on that night, my client was not in any condition to kill anyone. Not 4 hardened criminals, and certainly not a trained police officer. And nothing about my client's background, his associations, or that of the victims can change that fact. So as you all listen to the evidence in this trial, with fairness and impartiality as I know you will strive to, I only ask that you focus on the reality of this horrible crime, and not on the fiction that the people will try to weave for you. Thank you. That was actually a pretty good way to go about that. Because going into this, I had no idea how she was going to spin this. And yeah, going with the he was tortured, he was literally unable to do the thing. So it's not so much that no one else could have, he couldn't have either. Decorated veteran. You're telling me you never earned a single commendation, most push-ups of the day or something? Never mind, I suppose it could have gone worse. You're too kind. I was trying to be honest. The crowd got agitated, but you maintained a level head and recovered your tempo. Adone is a master at doing so. I've seen her make comebacks from the most nonsensical mistakes before. She's saying that as if it is just a high compliment. Oh, Sarah. In martial arts, they call it ukemi, a graceful fall. That is basically correct. Well, try not to gracefully fall over when you see the first witness on the docket, Sasuke. What do you mean by that? Your name and occupation for the record. Ah, how can that be necessary? If some blathering idiot in the courtroom doesn't already know who I am, they don't deserve. I know, but would you consider it, if only for the sake of ceremony? Ceremony is important and should be respected. Very well. I am Makoto Akaria of House Akaria. My occupation is that of a student. Try not to look so smug about it when you blatantly lie. Right, of course, and your position with the Akaria Financial Group is not salaried. Must I really declare it here? Hard to imagine why the noble house of Akaria is getting audited. Sasuke, are you alright? Can he see us? He can see me, Rockford, and the adjutant. Witnesses tele-testifying don't really need much else. So he's safe? Yes, Sasuke, he's safe, like he was yesterday. Probably sitting right where I left him, or standing on a box. I think the hologram's giving him a boost so he can see over the stand. She is really bugged by his age. Like, this has gone beyond just making jokes about it. This is something that she is actively annoyed by. That's good. A boost to his height? That he's safe at home. I'm sorry that he can't see you, Sasuke. Don't be. After how horribly I failed him, I'd like you to speak a bit about the events of August 13th. About the last time you saw the defendant, Sasuke Akaria. I'm here today, not physically, but here nonetheless as a courtesy. That does not mean I will flap my gums like some sort of flapping gum puppet. Permission to treat the witness as hostile incoming. Emma Rockford raking a spoiled brat over the coals. It'll almost be worth the price of admission alone. I understand. It was a traumatic experience, I'm sure. Anyone of normal upbringing would barely be able to recall a single detail, let alone the day's full events. Normal upbringing? I should probably dismiss you so you can get back to your summer studies. Summer studies? Like some common waif? Waif? That's quite the verbal pull. I didn't know they taught that in State Basic. Basic? Was I mistaken? Listen well, Madam Rockford, as I demonstrate to you exactly how misguided you are about my powers of retention. Please do. Played like a damn fiddle. Why wasn't she mentioned during any of our trial preparations? She being Rockford. Assistant District Attorney, likes art museums, amethysts, and turn-based RPGs. Emma likes turn-based RPGs. I literally cannot think of a single turn-based RPG. Like turn-based combat RPGs, like Golden Sun. Does Emma like Golden Sun? Dislikes ballrooms, boardrooms, and cliques. Flower in the mirror, moon on the water. Favourite subject psychology, that tracks. Exercises by subjects seem not to hear the question. Oh, Emma. Why wasn't she mentioned during any of our trial preparations? Adone's only won against her once. So far, every hot streak starts somewhere. Hot streak? I really am going to prison, aren't I? Where shall I start? As far back as you can. A simple task. For the past year, members of the organisation most commonly referred to as the Blue Blood Mafia have been making attempts on my life. Did you steal their lunch money or something? I am the primary beneficiary of my grandfather Daisuke Ikaria's will. In common parlance, I am the sole heir to the Ikaria Financial Group. You could buy so much lunch. The group you know as the Blue Bloods have been jealous of my family's financial foresight for decades. I am merely the most recent target of their impotent attempts to nip at our heels. And 2 days ago, on August 13th, how impotent was their attempt then? I was leaving a meeting held on the upper floors of Crane Tower. My security detail escorted me to the elevators where we would proceed down to their canopy access floors. This was all planned out in advance by my head of security, Sasuke Ikaria. But the elevator became stuck with unnatural timing. When Sasuke pried the doors open, we saw that we were stuck between the 62nd and 61st floors. Pried open with a tool? Leading the witness, Your Honour? He didn't need a tool to open the doors, his bare hands were more than sufficient. Oh, that is going to be very helpful. Or damning, depending on the way it's spun. Help Sasuke out here, kid. We submit into evidence the defendant's Akita Type 2 military-grade spinal mod, designed to enhance strength, endurance, and reflexes for high-intensity combat scenarios. Yes, sir, it is so admitted. What happened next? The decision was made that we would crawl out onto the 61st floor and head for the service elevators. But once Sasuke and I exited, the elevator started up. It was a trap. We were cut off from the rest of my detail. You were isolated and defenseless. That must have been... hardly defenseless. You really think my personal head of security wouldn't be armed? He had Yoru. Don't tell me. You named your sword. I knew there was going to be a Game of Thrones reference. I knew there was, because they really seem to not be able to help themselves in this episode. I knew it was going to have that. I almost made that joke myself, and I thought, nah, it's not actually that good a line. I'm not even reading it. Nope. Let the record show that the witness had identified Exhibit B3 as belonging to the defendant. This sword was recovered by the police in a known Blue Blood den in the lower wards. Found impaled into the body of Tariq Chopin. And forensics have shown that the only fingerprints on it are those of the defendant. There's still time for you to disown it, Sasuke. You understand nothing about a swordsman's heart, Adone. Once again, it's your paralegal that has the right of it. Perhaps she should be leading my defence. If this somehow turns into a fencing competition, I'll gladly defer to you two. So you, Sasuke, and Yoru were on the 61st floor together. What happened next? When we arrived at the service elevator, Sasuke called them and then they made a chime. And I didn't clearly see much of what happened next, to tell the truth. Figures emerged from around the corners. They were aiming weapons at me. A red dot shone on my chest. And then Sasuke was there and a needle was sticking out of his arm. Yoru glinted. Sasuke had drawn it in the blink of an eye. Something glanced off it and dropped to the floor. I saw a syringe at my feet. Yoru's sheath was thrust into my arms, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. That's clearly a key piece of testimony. Let's play it back 5 times. Rear. What matters is he pushed me back into the elevator with Yoru's sheath. How I landed is irrelevant and should be stricken from all public records. The only other thing I saw was Sasuke's back. He slammed his hand against the elevator's control panel and the door shut. That's the last time you saw the defendant? The decision was made that I should get on a VTOL as soon as possible, but much of my detail stayed behind to assess what had happened. Yes, they were very helpful to building security and recovering Exhibit 5C, the hypodermic needle gun. Sasuke's sword, bladed weapon found. It's a bladed weapon! Thwack it! What? It said it was a bladed weapon! Found at the scene of the crime, impaled onto the torso. That's a really old reference. Impaled into the torso of the victim, Tarek Chopin. The steel is chipped at several points, especially the tip. Identified by Makoto as Sasuke's personal weapon, Yoru. Taken along with Sasuke down to the lower wards following an ambush. Fingerprints on the handle match the right hand of Sasuke Akari and no other prints found. Blood residue at various points on the blade matches Chopin, Miller and Trey. Another murder weapon. I had to wipe prints off before taking my leave. It was indulgent trying to take Trey's head off. Wasn't my only indulgence either. I must have gotten Miller's blood on it. A needle gun and the projectiles found at Crane Tower where Makoto and Sasuke were ambushed. The model utilises the same kind of projectile needles recovered from the room where Sasuke was held and interrogated. Fingerprints match Creek. What kind of bonehead would leave evidence like that behind? A bonehead in a rush, perhaps, Your Honour. It does appear to have exhausted its gas canister, so it may have outlived its usefulness. I take it this weapon is a match for the projectile needles found in the room where my client was restrained? Correct. Others exactly like them were recovered from the scene of the ambush as well. Projectile hypodermic needles. Needles identical to those recovered from Crane Tower. Makoto, did you see the faces of the men who attacked you? Ha! All too clearly. I can tell you every detail of their roughshod countenances. Ah, that sounds like a good bit of testimony. Hit it! Needles. Yoru. A pineapple head-like man and a raincoat-clad hooligan came at us first. They aimed at me, but Sasuke got between us and blocked every shot. With Yoru, he could have closed the distance, but then a dark-eyed scoundrel approached from the right. And a man with a ridiculous pompadour took advantage of the distraction. I'll never forget the faces of those cowards. They tried to kill me. So whatever happened to them afterwards, I'm sure they deserved it. Why is the blind -1? Makoto's putting his talents for hyperbole on full display. I'll have to fact-check his description in order to get the ball rolling. Yes. Also yes. A ridiculous pompadour took advantage of the distraction. Yeah, that's Creek. They tried to kill me. I mean, that's not true. Call. They did not try to kill you. Because they had hypodermic needles. They couldn't have been trying to kill the witness, not with non-lethal projectiles. They fired a lot of them. The witness doesn't weigh that much. Don't try it. I don't know why Emma's defending this. Yeah, I don't know why she's seeing this as like her argument taking a hit. I suppose it undermines his credibility, but is he a bad thing for this case? Don't try it. This attack was clearly planned with the intent of capturing Makoto alive. Meaning what? That 4 of this case's victims were actually soft-hearted pacifists. Again, how does that help the situation? There's nothing soft-hearted about what they did to my client after capturing him. Using tools they clearly originally planned to use on the witness. So they're sadists. I'm getting confused here. So is the defense, Your Honor. What matters is that the witness has identified the defendant's captors as the 4 Blue Blood victims he is accused of murdering. Makoto did establish that much, but something about this attack still bothers me. Emma put Makoto on the stand specifically to identify the victims. Is it possible the men who attacked them weren't Creek's pod? No, because there's the pompadour, the pineapple, the raincoat. You know, it lines up too perfectly. The fingerprints, it has to be his pod. No, everything lines up. There is absolutely no... I still don't know why the blind is -1. But no, there is absolutely nothing saying it is not Creek's pod. Emma has put Makoto on the stand in order to big up Sasuke's killing ability and big up his motive for wanting to kill them. So that's why she's done it, not because of some bait and switch. Stay. They were attacked by Creek's pod. I don't disagree, Your Honor. The men who attacked Makoto and took Sasuke captive are the same ones who ended up dead that night. But 2 questions do occur to me. Why were you safe on that service elevator if Sasuke surely collapsed the moment it shut? Wouldn't these men have pursued you by any means necessary? That is... I can answer that, Your Honor. When the police inspected the scene, they found that the control panel on the 61st floor was broken. Smashed, in fact. The attackers would have had to manually pry open the doors to even attempt to chase after Makoto. And that would take remarkable modded strength. Did you mash the button that's forcefully, Sasuke? I may have used more force than necessary. I wasn't exactly trying to hold myself back at the time. He hit the controls hard enough to break them. So the Blue Bloods couldn't pursue you further and instead elected... Ah! That is important. Because whoever attacked Trey with the sword was unable to cut his head off with it. Whoever it was did not have the physical strength required to decapitate somebody with a sword, whereas he, both with his modded strength and his skill with the sword, would have been able to in a single swing. Boom! So the Blue Bloods couldn't pursue you further and instead elected to take Sasuke captive. A Sasuke in the hand is better than a Makoto in the bush. The head of Makoto's security would surely have made for an invaluable source of information for planning future attacks. Were he made to talk? Are you denying that? No, but I would like to ask the witness one other question. Why did you get off the elevator in the first place? What are you... Hey, what I mentioned in the lobby earlier, that's... The mics might not be picking up on it for you, but from where I'm standing I can't help but overhear my client groaning about how badly he failed you. That's not evidence or testimony, so should be stricken from the record. But we get the idea. So was bailing out early the defendant's big brain idea? As head of my personal security detail, such a decision is ultimately his to make. However, that decision may have been influenced by his knowledge of the fact that I am not especially comfortable in enclosed spaces. What the hell are you doing? Are you trying to humiliate him? In part. I'm also trying to insult you. Had we simply waited, we would have remained safe, but I was not comfortable and felt very warm. So it was not a tactical failure on Sasuke's part per se, just an error of judgment. Councillor Morgan. What's up? You can disconnect the call if... Ask me another question. Ask me about how bravely Sasuke defended me. Huh? So that's your angle? We can't all be as naturally gifted at extracting valuable testimony out of spoiled brats as Emma, but I can follow her example, insult their pride, and these Ikaria snap back as reliable as any knee-jerk reaction. And in Makoto's case, with infinitely less resistance than if I'd simply asked him to testify. It's usually the lawyers who do the asking and the witnesses who do the answering. This is not very realistic. I bet that's based on feedback of the game. But frankly, compared to some lawyer TV shows and stuff I've seen, this is much more realistic in my opinion. But, again, not my area. We ask that the witness testify for the court in more detail about exactly how valiantly Sasuke fought off the attackers. And I guess the people don't object, even though it seems super extra. No, the people don't object, Your Honor. Emma's playing passively. Either I'm onto something here or I'm walking into a trap. Screw it, all in on the former.